Flights are pricey, planning feels chaotic, and that trip that keeps getting pushed because you're too busy or travel's too expensive. Welcome to Points, Cards, and Travel. I'm Ross, the founder of Itinerary Boss. I've made the mistakes of doing this for 10 plus years so you don't have to. Each week, you'll get practical tools, point strategies, and expert guests with real use cases so you can travel better for way less using points and miles. Quick thing before we bring on our guests, if you're new here, go ahead and grab my free 5 step roadmap to your next free 5 star luxury vacation and the one card that gets you there, which you can find in the show notes. Now, let's bring on our guest and get into it. Welcome back to another episode of World Travel Made Easy with Itinerary Boss. For this week, I'm excited to have on Danny Safran. He's an expert in the points and miles game, and he's gotten to stay in over 11 countries, 75 hotels, just on points and miles, and is a true expert. And I'm really excited to have him on the show. How's it going today, Danny?
Great, Ross. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, of course. And would love to just learn a little bit more about you before you start rattling off all the expertise you have in points and miles. But where you're from, what do you do? All that good stuff.
All right. Well, originally I'm from New York, from Long Island, and so is my wife. And we moved down here from Manhattan about 17, 18 years ago, down to Florida, sorry. And we've been here ever since. Have two kids, two boys, teenagers. One is going to be off to college in a few months. The other one is soon behind him. He's going to be a senior in high school this coming fall. So we have our hands full, and you know, we do love to travel, and I'm glad we've been able to use points and miles to do that. Because we've been to some really nice places and places that I never thought I'd be able to go, and I definitely wouldn't be able to have gone there without the points and miles.
That's awesome. And congrats on getting one through high school and off to college and then you have one more. That's got to be exciting because you're excited for them, but also now you get more room in your house.
Right, and now I'm going to try to figure out how I can leverage the financial costs of college into some points and miles. Definitely going to try to figure out that strategy.
You'll have to let me know. I don't know if I don't know if there's any experts that I haven't looked into it, but I'm sure a lot of people would love to know that because college is not getting any cheaper, that's for sure.
No, definitely not. Although in Florida, I will say in Florida, the state schools in Florida are pretty affordable. So
And they're
compared
good.
to compared to other public and private schools around the country, Florida state schools are very affordable.
Yeah, yeah. Good sports, good schools, everything. And I know
Yeah.
when we were talking, a lot of people that I bring on, a lot of the times, either they're working solely in the points and miles space as writers. Sometimes I have authors who come on, who are outside the points and miles space. But when we were talking, I know you work a full-time job as a property manager, and would just love, that's just great proof that, right, you don't have to solely work in the travel industry and be a writer just solely on these topics, right? You've learned how to master loyalty programs. So I would just love to learn a little bit more about, what piqued your interest, how did you get into this whole points and miles game?
Right. Well, you can thank my wife for that. She was doing a little travel. She still does for work. And at the time, this was back in 2017, probably the fall. She was staying at Hilton hotels for work. And I think she came across a pop-up when she was, staying there and online or what have you, that introduced her to a credit card that, if you open up, you can get some points and maybe a free night. And she asked me about if she thought it was a good idea for her to sign up or for me to sign up. And so I did some research. I looked into it and I said, this seems okay. Like, why don't we try it? Because we were honestly just basically using our debit card for everything. Maybe we had one credit card, but weren't really using it. And so we opened up this one Hilton card. It might have been the Aspire or whatever it was called at the time. And we ended up using it for points for a family trip up to, I remember this, St. Petersburg, Florida. I went to the University of Michigan. We were playing a football game New Year's Day at the Outback Bowl, and so we needed a place to stay. And I said, why don't we use the points here for to stay at the Hilton in St. Petersburg? and we did that, and I thought it was really cool that I had access to the lounge there as a diamond member, and it was a free stay. It probably wasn't the best redemption. I have no idea. I don't remember, but it that's what piqued my interest. And so from that point on, I started researching, going online, joining Facebook groups, kind of learning more about points and miles and credit cards and bonuses and things of that nature. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I remember at that after that I opened up or had my wife open up a Chase Sapphire card, and I think I had read about the Southwest Companion Pass. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna open up a Southwest card and a Southwest Business card at the same time. I'm gonna fly everywhere with a free ticket. And lo and behold, I got denied for the business card. And the Chase was like, "You are opening up way too many cards right now. So you got to calm down." And that was kind of my first lesson. You got to kind of pace yourself. But I did end up getting a lot of points from Southwest and Chase. And basically, for that first year, we used it to go. I remember that summer of 2018, we went to Nashville, Charleston, New Orleans, and Denver, all on like long weekend trips using I flew anywhere Southwest with flying from Fort Lauderdale. And I used a mixture of Hyatt points and Hilton points to stay at hotels, and and I was hooked.
I love it. That's it's cool, right? It's cool to hear that it wasn't, yeah, I started out with the one travel card that everyone recommends. It just happened, so be it, that, your wife was traveling some for work, and that's kind of how she got into it. And that's, the people that, I worked in the sales field for 10 plus years prior to this, and that's how I learned just, okay, rewards, right? Signing up for the programs. Okay, what are some of the cards? And, that then turns into free nights sometimes. And it's funny you say, like, it may have not been the best redemption with the Hilton card, but no one's first redemption is ever going to be, right, the one where you spend 100,000 points and save, $7,000, $8,000, right? It's like, do it, get the experience, and then you're like, okay, this is cool. Like, I actually, this is something that I really can do. And I think something too is, it doesn't, like you mentioned, you went on 4 trips on in the US, long weekend trips. Sometimes people think it may have to be this massive redemption where you go on a week long, 2 week long international trip, right? Flying business, lie flat seats, because that's what's aspirational on social media. You just said, hey, this is what we want to do. And this is how we're going to use these points, and made a lot of different trips out of it. So there's no one size fits all. And that's awesome to hear, that's how you strategically did that. If this episode is helping you out, could you hit that follow or subscribe button and also leave a quick 5-star rating wherever you're listening?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to start. If you're starting out where you really from scratch, where you don't even have a lot of points and miles built up, I think it's better to kind of maybe do something like that, plan trips in the US, shorter
Mhm.
length, and kind of get an understanding of how things work. And then show up at hotels and kind of see what benefits you get and things like that. And then it gives you time also. So these smaller trips gave me time to kind of open up other cards and build up my points and mile stash, so that I can plan a bigger trip down the road. And like, so I remember the following year is when we planned our first like vacation with the kids. It was like their spring break, and I planned a trip to out west to Las Vegas and the Grand Canyon and Sedona and Phoenix for like an 8 night trip over spring break. And at that point I had built up enough Hilton miles or Hilton points to stay at some nice Hiltons, figured out flights, and figured out where to stay in Las Vegas and as best as possible. And so, staying not going crazy that first year was helpful in allowing me to see how these points work and kind of plan a better, longer trip for the whole family. And so
Yeah.
that was our first big vacation.
That's awesome. And then from there, I know you have a pretty extensive list you sent me, and I was looking at them like, okay, this is great for me to know when I want to go to different, right, Hyatt's, Hilton's, IHG, Marriott. But, where you talked about being, going straight in the US, but then from there, like just compounding on that and snowballing, like from there, where have you gone internationally.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so COVID has a big part in this because COVID not a great thing to go through, but and I had a trip. My first international trip was planned to go to Costa Rica March of 2020, and lo and behold, a week before, 2 weeks before, COVID hits and that gets canceled, and I was kind of bummed out because I had opened up a Marriott card specifically to get 5 nights to stay at a place in Costa Rica, and now I'm like, I have these nights, and what am I going to do with it now? What am I going to do with them now? Luckily, I think they were extended or something like that. But COVID did give me the opportunity to become a Hyatt globalist, because Hyatt, I guess, to try to maintain, people going to their hotels through this, pandemic, they made it much easier to become a globalist, and I did some crazy things. I did some crazy spends, some crazy runs, mattress runs, to get globalist, and that basically gave me enough points and the elite status to have a great time in Europe. My first trip was I brought my whole family, including my parents, which was really nice to be able to do. I think my father had never been to London and Paris before, and I was fortunate enough to take them. I used my points and miles to get a British Airways over there, Air France on the way back from Paris, and we were able to stay at the Hyatt in Paris for only, I think it was my room was 60,000 points for 4 nights, and I was able to upgrade to like an Eiffel Tower suite
Oh,
to put the
wow.
kids in. So to stay in a suite where I had my own room and the kids had their own room for 60,000 points is just, it can't be beat. And my parents were able to stay for 6 nights on the same 15,000 points a night, which I think it's gone up since then. But that was our first big trip abroad, and it was awesome. I had such a great time, and my dad still talks about it to this day, so that always makes me happy. And I
Yeah.
definitely would not have been able to do that if it wasn't for being a globalist and picking up all these points and miles along the way. Um, we were fortunate enough to go back to Europe a few times after that. We went to Italy, where we went to Rome and Florence and Venice. Stayed at some really great places like the St. Regis in Venice. Very memorable for me. Driving up, on a boat with I felt like I was like James Bond, sort of like getting driven through the canal. And stopping, having the bellman like kind of take your bags from the boat, and you come up on the dock and you're at this beautiful luxury resort on the Grand Canal. Amazing. And then we also got to go to Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and Belgium for a week. And that was great. Stayed at the Andaz there. Stayed at a great Marriott in Ghent, which is, I don't know if anyone of your listeners have been to Ghent, but it's an underrated city, I think, in
Okay.
Belgium. Great medieval town to stay. The Marriott is right on the river there. Really cool spot.
Okay.
If you want to visit Bruges and some of the other surrounding areas in Belgium.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so I was able to go to Europe 3 times in the
That's
last
awesome.
5 years.
That's amazing. And I think it's cool too, right? You're helping people. I think a lot of the times people find it as, oh, I don't know if like I can do this on points and miles. And you're just kind of proof in the pudding to show like you started small, you started to dive into, you started to just go down the rabbit hole and figure out, wow, this is fun. And I also can travel pretty much paid for. And things like taking your parents. A lot of the times people, parents want to go, but sometimes they might not think, they might say, oh, that's crazy. Like, I'm not going to do that. And then you kind of show them and they're like, oh, okay. So you're building some of those memories. And like you said, you may have not been able to do that if you didn't have Globalist, if you didn't have all those points and miles, and it just builds some of those awesome memories. And sometimes I think I was talking to someone and they were talking about, hey, I was able to fly my family to this place to see their family once because sometimes they weren't seeing them at all this year. I was able to fly someone here on this vacation. And it's like, it doesn't always have to be, it just has to be specifically what you're looking to do. And I think that's pretty cool that you're able to give them, right, a lifetime memory trip that they're still talking about to this day.
Yeah, and I've helped them open some cards here and there. I said, you open it up, and then I'll plan a trip. We also went to the Dominican to the Hyatt Ziva there and my sister and her family came too. And this was all because I was able to have them open up some cards and get some points and use some of my points and miles. We all flew on Latam using some points there too. Yeah, it doesn't even have to be one time. It could be multiple times that you could take your family different places. Yeah.
That's cool. You answered my next question. My next question was going to be, so after you took them there, were they like, okay, this is the real deal. We need to dive in, and
Yeah,
it's
definitely. I mean, they're not like anywhere near what I
yeah,
do. They have to, but they definitely have seen it. I've helped them. I had them open up I think a Marriott card that got them 5 free nights and they went to Aruba for their
that's
anniversary.
awesome.
And so yeah, so I definitely have been able to help them. They've opened up some Hilton cards and I've definitely I say, mom and dad, talk to me first though before you do anything,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they definitely can make some mistakes, so they
for
got to be
sure.
careful.
As most people when they start out doing, you still, right? I still do. So no, I get it. What about, so I mean, I know for people who are just starting out, right? When you start to have all the, because I think the biggest thing people think is that just sounds way too complicated, overwhelming. How do you keep track of all those cards? So just thinking about, we'll keep it kind of simple. But just the four different hotel chains, right? Marriott,
Mhm.
IHG, Hyatt, Hilton, like how do you kind of keep track of those different points, but also just the different cards that you have open?
Well, keeping track of the card, I do use an app to keep the cards I have open. It's called, I don't know if you want me to name it, but it's called
Yeah.
Travel Freely. I use Travel Freely to keep track of all the cards I have open, my 524, keeping track of that. So that's sort of thing. I don't look at it too often. I also I keep a lot of notes in my phone to kind of keep track of things myself. So I have it, at a moment's notice. And then, as far as picking which hotels to stay at, that's another issue when it comes to all these hotel chains because not only, once you have these cards, you gotta, a lot of them come with free nights and they're use it or lose it. So it's like, okay, so when do I use these nights? How do I best, divvy up my pile of free nights? And so that's been a challenge. The good thing is living in Florida affords me the opportunity to use my Hilton free nights and the $200 resort credit that comes with my Aspire card. Um,
We wanted to thank you for listening in and mention if you want help applying this to your own spending and trip planning strategy, that's exactly what the Reward Strategy Lab community is for. You can find details if you want to join within our show notes. Now, back on with the show.
at a lot of places. Unfortunately, a lot of people throughout the country don't have that. They have to travel far to a Hilton resort. And I know that because I know that's an issue. A lot of people have the Aspire card, and even I had some friends open it up. And it's like, okay, I have this $200 credit, but how am I going to use it when the nearest resort is like hundreds of miles away? I definitely strategize as to when and where I'm going to use all these different points and miles. Right now, this is pretty much my last year as a globalist. I'm not going to be able to hang on to it anymore. So, I have that in mind, how I can try to maximize my last year. Um, and then also, I have between my wife and I, we have 4 Aspire cards. So we have a lot of resort credits to use every 6 months. So I really have to keep that in mind and choose wisely as where we're going to go on our vacations. I want to maximize all the opportunities and credits that I have. So it's definitely something you got to keep track of, and I'm constantly thinking about it, writing down, looking for resorts and where I can use the credits and things like that. And then And then Marriott too. I have like 4 free nights in Marriott every year, so I gotta strategically think when and where I'm gonna use those.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to think about, definitely.
For sure. Yeah. And I think for, that's see, you've done it for a while and you know how to play the system and just and maximize all of that. But I think for people who, they're just starting out or they're still that beginner or intermediate phase, like what you brought up a great point that I always like to say, it's like start out where what is around you or where do you like to go, right? Like if you're trying to figure out airline miles, what's kind of that hub? And that makes sense, right? Whether it's a co-branded airline card or it's if you're trying to transfer partners, right? One World Alliance, like figuring out that and understanding that piece, but then also hotels, like if you have no hotel co-branded cards or one, figuring out, okay, where am I going on that vacation? And then opening that type of card. And like we just got married at the Kimpton and or we had our hotel block and rehearsal dinner for our wedding at the Kimpton here in Charlotte, which is an IHG hotel. They had a promo going on that had 5 free nights when you hit the minimum spend. So we were like, okay, we can get 26 times the points. We get a free night when we're in Bangkok. And then we booked a trip down to the Grand Cayman in November, which like we should, and then we got 26 times the points. So on that spend, we have a ton of points. And then we were staying in 3, 4 Hyatts when we were on our honeymoon in Thailand and Bali. And we were like, okay, well, since they're staying in Hyatt's, let's get the Hyatt World of Hyatt card. So we get 9 times the points on that spend, get the minimum and also more. So it's like thinking about those type of strategies. You just brought up a great point. Like it on a surface level, it may seem like a lot, but once you do it and you kind of realize, okay, this is what we're doing and you're planning your travel around it, it just comes down to strategically, like you said, starting small, not trying to travel around the world on your first trip and starting to learn the game and listening to people like Danny and I. I think that's the we try to help you not make the same mistakes that, we've probably both made a good amount.
Yeah, if you haven't made any mistakes, you haven't been doing this too long, or you haven't doing something right, because you're bound. You have to make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, and you learn from them. And hopefully you don't make the same one twice. But if you're not making mistakes, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, no, for sure. What do you feel like the biggest mistake you kind of see when people start dabbling in points and
Well,
miles?
for those who are dabbling in, like, and I don't know how it happens, but I've seen way too many times where people don't hit the sign up bonus on a credit card, and that's to me is like that's a huge mistake right there.
Yeah.
That's like number one. Like, don't open up a credit card and then not get the sign up and leave and be a dollar short. I don't know. Like, I don't, those stories just kill me because you wanted to spend exactly $4,000.
Yeah.
You couldn't spend 4,500 just to be sure or something. So I think people have to realize, because to me, and we kind of touched on it at the beginning, I work, I don't travel for work. So the way I earn miles and points is the biggest earner is through sign up bonuses. So if you make the mistake of not hitting a sign up bonus, I mean that could set you back, greatly. So
Yeah.
I've never done that's one mistake I've never made. And you definitely do have to keep track of it. That app that I use, Travel Freely, will you put in the date and it will let you know when you have to hit that bonus by. But generally, I don't necessarily need to look at that. I know I'm spending money on that card. And then as far as once you get into it, I think you definitely have to pace yourself. And don't think, actually a big mistake is thinking that you're gonna you're gonna you're gonna get into this right away and start traveling all over the place. Kind of something we touched on. It takes time to build up these miles and points if you're starting from the beginning, and it takes planning. So it's not going to be easy to just open a couple of cards and then right away you'll be able to book something that you want to book, within a month or two. I tried it. A lot of the things, especially the more aspirational things that you want to book, those and the popular places, you have to book them pretty far in advance. So don't make the mistake of thinking you're just going to open up some cards and you're going to get to go to these places right away. I think I personally plan these vacations like almost a year in advance a lot of the time. especially when you have kids and you don't really have flexibility. If you know when your kids' spring break is or when winter break is or whatever, Thanksgiving, you're planning a trip. Um, you have that time a year in advance to look at hotels and flights are usually like 11 months out if you want to book flights right away that you can kind of be more flexible with. So I think making a mistake of thinking you're gonna get points right away and start doing it, you kind of have to build your stash first.
No, 100%. No, those are all really good points, and I love that one biggest mistake because I for some reason I didn't even think of that because it's just like second nature. But that's a great point. I think I always think of redeeming them for like Amazon gift cards or using it, which when I first started, I was like, oh, statement balance. I'm gonna redeem it for that. When that was, 9, 10 years ago. But it's like you have to learn to make those mistakes, then you can laugh about them. But no, I mean, all really good points. And I even was talking to a buddy who's like, hey, like I want to get a new card. I'm going on my trip in October to Italy. And I'm also just thinking like, I mean, you might be able to, but probably not for the flight. And you might as well just start to learn it. And if you want to go on a big trip next year, yeah, I do. Okay, well then probably use them there. Cause yeah, like you said, it's like 11 months out. I mean, I had a timer for Qatar for 361 days and then British Airways for 355 and was watching it and like each day checking because when it opened up, like those go really fast. So you have to, if you're wanting to fly business or anything like that, like a lot of the times if you're, unless you, like you said, if when you have kids or if you have a busy work schedule and you can't just say, oh, I'm going to find availability a day or two in advance, right? Like when it opens up,
Right.
you have to do that planning. So no, those all really good points. Any other advice? Just, full time when you have kids, anything else for parents?
Yeah, well, as far as the vacation itself, and with the family, I'm sure, it will vary from family to family, but I try to, we all have our different likes and dislikes when we go on these trips and the things we do. So I try to, I'm the itinerary boss of our family.
I love it.
So I try to plan something that, I'll enjoy maybe more than others, but I'll give the kids something I know, like for them, like they're more adventurous, outdoorsy. So we always try to plan bike rides or like a golf cart ride or a buggy ride. And then my wife, I'll try to throw all the luxury I can at her, like try to stay in nice places. So I think, when planning the vacations, once you know where you're going, trying to plan, and do things that everyone will appreciate. I've learned to cut down the museums. I think we did too many museums. My other three partners in crime, have told me like no more museums. So I stick to like maybe one museum at each place. So I think that's some good advice for when you're actually once you're on these vacations. And by the way, I like to something so when I do go on these vacations, I like to do tours. I use Viator or Viator, I don't know how to
Yeah.
pronounce it, but and I always book it through or Rakuten.
Yeah.
Again, not sure of the
Yeah.
pronunciation. Especially they have like right now they have 15 times the back on your cash back, but I mine set up to give me membership rewards points. So, if I book like a $500 tour right now, I'm getting like I guess 4,500 or what I would get 4,500 membership rewards points right now, which can get me a flight to Charlotte.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
on Alaska. So I always book my tour. I might be paying a little premium when I do it through Viator. But using cashback apps like Rakuten is really
Yeah. No, yeah, Rakuten's a game changer. I don't have any of the American Express cards.
um,
So, but I know about that trick. One thing I was going to say, if you don't, and you have any of the Capital One cards, you can actually book through the Capital One portal, and they have some of those like 10, 15 times, right? The points. A lot of the times it's on travel. Get your guide, Viator.
Right.
Expedia, but you can't use the Rakuten plugin, so you can't get cash back or get those Amex points.
Well,
So
it's very important that for those who do have membership reward points and you sign up for Rakuten, make sure you put in that you want to get the membership rewards points. I think people have a hard time once they choose cash back. There's some difficulty with changing it. So I would just advise everyone who hasn't done it yet to and wants to get membership reward points from Rakuten, go on there and make sure you sign up for to get membership rewards. Unless you want the cash. I mean, I prefer to get the points. They're worth more to me because I pretty much want to use them for travel and
yeah,
I can get some really good redemptions with membership reward points.
yeah, but I think it's like just outlining what you just said about you paid, let's just say $500 for tours. You're already spending that money. And then you're like, okay, I know I'm probably going to go to Charlotte or I'm probably going to go somewhere, right, for another trip. Why not just use you? And it's just going back to the kind of basics of points and miles, right? Why not just use that similar to what we were talking about with the Marriott Hilton, right? Opening a Hyatt or IHG card. You know you're going to travel to those places. Why not use that and get the maximum amount of points so you can use those in the future and fund future travel, which you probably know you're going to do.
Right. And there's nothing like getting you get like a rebate on your Amex card, like in your Amex offers for like, a certain amount off of Viator and then you book it. So you're getting the points, you get the rebate and you get the Amex point. You get a triple dip, I guess.
I love that.
It's a great feeling.
Right. One thing I know, I'm a big sports fan. I know you are too. And when you try to go places, there's always surge charges. If you're going to any sort of sporting event, if it's that weekend, any sort of bucket list type event, they're jacking up the prices like crazy. But have you been to some sporting events where you've been able to use points for the hotels and save a ton of money?
Oh, definitely. Some planned out a year in advance, some a little off the cuff. I think I said at the beginning, I went to the University of Michigan, so I go back for football games here and there, and football weekends, the hotels jack up the rate like crazy. Fortunately enough, there's a Hyatt place in Ann Arbor, and so I've been not this year, but the last few years. I find out exactly when they're opening up those fall dates, and I've been fortunate enough to book rooms maybe 2 or 3 nights at a time there at place for like 15 or 18,000 points. And then I have friends that will stay there and they're paying $1,000 a night. So
Crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. And then I've been fortunate enough to go to some really big events in the last few years. I went to one weekend in 48 hours I went to a Cowboys Lions Saturday night game, the Rose Bowl, and a Heat Clippers game all within 48 hours. And I stayed at in that I was a trip. I was vacationing in Mexico, flew to Dallas, stayed at the Grand Hyatt DFW with my older son, went to the Cowboys game. The next day we flew out and we stayed in LA at the Hotel Figueroa, which is a Hyatt hotel, right like a block away from the arena where the Clippers used to play. And I went to the Rose Bowl at 2 o'clock on that New Year's Day and to the Clippers Heat game at 7 p.m. that night. And I used points to stay at all the hotels. Yeah. So I had to spend a lot of money on the tickets, but staying at the hotels for free was a good way to balance that out.
That sounds like a great way to start off the new year. I'm jealous.
Yeah, well, the Michigan won. That's all that mattered.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
care, I mean, too much about the other games. Michigan beat Alabama in overtime. I got to enjoy that with my son. It was like the one of the best, probably the best father-son moment I've ever had with him. So yeah, that was a great time.
That was a crazy game. That's cool that you got to see that one too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, I love that's like my aside from points and miles. Michigan football is a little above, and basketball is above points and miles. That's probably my biggest passion.
That's good. I didn't tell you this, but my wife and all of her friends are all from Ohio, so they're all
Uh-oh.
Buckeyes. They're all Buckeyes fans. I don't. I'm neutral. I cheer for them, but we're Wake Forest fans, so we don't really matter in the grand scheme of things in any sports
Okay.
besides baseball and golf and
Tim
soccer.
Duncan, Tim
Yeah,
Duncan, Chris Paul.
yeah. Oh, I had all their jerseys, so that's that's but yeah, we haven't been so good in a while.
No, no, but maybe he'll come back soon.
Well,
NIL.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully we'll see. Any other cool sporting events you got coming up that you're looking to go to?
Coming up, do I have any sporting events? No, but I will tell you, I don't think I have any coming up, but I will tell you what was really cool was and my trip to London and Paris. Again, I planned it pretty far in advance, and that I said I didn't even realize I was going to be there in Paris during Roland Garros, during the French Open. But it turns out we were. So I woke up. I found out when tickets go on sale. I woke up at like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning to be one of the first people to get tickets. I picked like a random night that I was going to be there. I figured nighttime would be the best to go with my parents and my family. And lo and behold, the night that we went, it was Djokovic versus Nadal, like which is like you can't choose a better match. And I randomly just picked that, and we saw like an unbelievable match. Like so, and that was just not planned at all. It was just like let's just go see this tennis tournament while we're there, and it turned out to be one of the best matches, like you can see.
That's
So that
amazing.
was really
Wow.
cool.
Dang. Yeah, I haven't used them as much as you have for hotels, for amazing sporting events, but I'm excited to get more into that and understanding that you can save a lot of money there, is a game changer. Anything
Yeah,
else
definitely.
you got coming up this year, trip wise, or next year that you're planning that you're excited for?
Well, trip wise, I just sort of just finished booking a trip with friends over Christmas vacation, which is really exciting. We've been away with some of these families. We've been to Hawaii with them. These are friends from New York. I've gotten them to open up cards and do this and that, and we've been to Hawaii with them. We've been to Tulum, Mexico with them. We stayed at the Conrad there. Awesome hotel, highly recommend it. And now we just booked a trip. They want to go to Costa Rica. I've been there a couple of times. But I said, you know what? If you guys want to go to Costa Rica, we'll make it happen because I want to go away with you guys. Our families get along. So we just booked that. We're staying at some like an SLH hotel that we booked using Hilton points, and we're staying at a Marriott as well while we're there. So we just booked that. And then next year, I will be turning 50, and as will my wife. I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but and we'll be married 25 years. So it's a huge milestone year for a couple of reasons. So I want to go to Japan. I want to make that happen. So I've been, building up my membership rewards for flights, and I have a big, a lot of Chase Ultimate rewards, and I have Hyatt points and other points. So I'm building up my stack, and then it's when the fall. It's going to be next fall, hopefully, when my kids will both be in college, so I won't have to worry about them being home alone. And hopefully I can find some good business class flights to Japan. I know those are hard to come by. And I mean, there's plenty of hotels to choose from. So that's something I'm looking, I'm researching, I'm on sites, I'm on Reddit, and I'll be prepared come the fall to book flights.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, congrats. That's a huge two milestones in the same year. So what better way to go to Japan, just you two. That's an amazing. Have you been to Japan before?
No, I have not. No, I have not been to Japan. I was gonna say I haven't been to Asia, but I've been to one Asian country. So no, I'm looking forward to it. But I will say I'm trying to get another couple to go. I don't want to. Our My closest friend will also be turning 50, and he will also be having his 25th anniversary. So he and his wife, I think we're on the same page. So they're a little behind in the points and miles games, but I'm trying to help them out, and I think if we work together as a foursome, we could really do some great things.
If there's only two business class seats, are you
Well,
taking?
they're in New York, we're
Oh,
down in
okay, all
Miami, and
right.
you know,
Sorry, there are only two economies available for
yeah,
you guys. Sorry.
that's we're gonna take those if there's only
Yeah.
two.
Yeah. I have a friend who actually just went. She actually came on the podcast and she's a pretty well-known blogger. She actually just and she flew from Orlando and I think they did I can't remember if they did a positioning flight or what, but I'll send you her route because I think she like got creative with it and was able to get there on Cathay Pacific and then back on Polaris. But I think they just stop over in Hong Kong. I can't remember.
I'm willing to, hey, if you can get on business class to Japan and you have to do a positioning flight or somewhere, I'm all for it. I would be something that, yeah, that's another whole other topic, positioning flights. Like I generally, because I'm down in Miami, there's not a lot of great flights to Europe, so I've always just gone to like Paris and then fly somewhere else. Or we went to Madrid in order to get to Amsterdam. So I'm all for, yeah, I'm all positioning flights are great. They're
Yep.
a very useful tool.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, Danny, I appreciate you coming on. This was fun. I'm excited to share this. And for, people who I think the biggest thing is just sharing, you work a full-time job. This isn't your full-time job and you just have fun with it. And you just the impact you've had on, it's cool to hear the stories, the impact you've had on your family, your parents, your kids, some of those amazing moments. Obviously, if you're a sports fan, being able to do this makes it more accessible. And then just even your friends, like building a lot of these memories with them and getting them on board because, it's the truth and it truly can help change your friends and family's lives and have a good time. So really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Ross. I've had a great time.
Yeah,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And for listeners, please share this with a family or friend who wants to start traveling more. And if you enjoyed the episode, if you can give us a 5-star review, that helps us reach more people. And we'll see you next week. Thanks again for tuning in, everyone. Really appreciate you tuning in today. Before you go, again, if you're new here, grab my free 5-step roadmap to your next free 5-star luxury vacation and the one card that gets you there in the show notes. The main takeaway from today is you don't need more time or money to travel better. You just need a simple plan and the right strategy in place. My final thought is travel is supposed to feel exciting, not overwhelming. Take one thing you learned today, apply it this week, and your next trip gets easier starting now. We'll see you next episode. Really appreciate you tuning in.